This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Thursday, October 4th, 2018. My guest is no other than Thunder E of Booredatwork. Hey, dude, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm finally here. I've been waiting for my opportunity, so thank you for the invite.
I was so excited when you said yes. I'm like, I've been thinking about it, but I'm like, he's got to be the busiest man on the planet. I see how much stuff you create on your YouTube channel, and I'm like, I don't know if he's going to say yes, So I'm so glad you were like on it right away. That was really cool. Thank you.
Oh, no, thanks for having me.
Cool. So the first thing I want to talk about, which is obviously on everybody's mind, if you're a phone user or any tech, follower of technology, is obviously this week's announcements. The first one to me that's more important is the LG announcement, the V40, the Watch W7, and then we're going, there's Microsoft as well. We did some cool stuff. So I kind of want to talk about those two things, and I want to get your feelings for this LG stuff, because LG decided not only to not send me a review unit in time like they did to everyone else, but they didn't invite me to the briefings they had either, for whatever reason. So I'm figuring that out with them. This is unusual for them. And in the meantime, I'm going to have to live vicariously through you, Thunder. So what is your take on the V40?
The V40 is an interesting device. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of the G7. Build quality is similar. It's got that glass back that feels like plastic. So even though it's premium, it doesn't feel like premium. So that's one of the things there. I'm a big headphone guy. If anyone has seen my videos,
I know that, yeah.
A massive headphone wall. So I'm happy the headphone jack is there. I love the fact that the quad DAC it's really fantastic. But I think what everyone cares about is the fact that LG says we have 5 cameras in this device, 3 in the rear, 2 in the front. The triple camera setup is nice, especially the fact that we've got the ultra wide and telephoto. But from my experience, it's a bit hit or miss. So it feels like, LG still hasn't fully nailed what they wanted to do. And I think it comes down to a couple of things. There's no OIS on that ultra wide. So even still,
that's really annoying.
Yeah, so that really just plays a lot to it, because they've got this new feature called triple shot where you can take all 3 photos at the same time. There's a slight delay because one of the cameras goes to a different ISP, but it doesn't come out as well as you want. So it's one of those things you're like, okay, this is nice, but it's you kind of get just togged in between, because you're like, LG, you're taking us there, but you really are not taking us there. And then they announce the price. And
wow, yeah, okay, I know. Whew, let's take a breath for a second together, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So, are you guys ready? Anybody listening to the show? It's $900 effing dollars, okay?
Yeah. That shocked me, because I was hoping for LG to go counter the $1,000 craze.
It's the same with the G7. Remember, the G7 came out. I got briefed. I got to play with one, and I got my review unit. And I'm everything you just said about the V40 there, that little intro you just gave us, the kind of rundown was exactly what I thought about the G7 at the time. Like, I'm a big LG fan. I love their products, which is why I'm kind of annoyed they didn't include me this time. But the point is, I'm like, that does not feel like a premium phone. Like, it feels like it has all the stuff on paper, right? The G7 did, and the V40 as well. In fact, the V40 brings some kind of really cool stuff to the table. And then you touch it and you're like, feels kind of light, and it's nice in a way, but another way it's like, it doesn't feel like a Samsung or an iPhone. It's like, it feels like a Galaxy. It doesn't feel like a Galaxy. It doesn't feel as dense. It doesn't feel as well made, even though it's glass. As you said, I love how you said the back feels like plastic, because it kind of does. And so I'm like, but at the same time, I want to love it. And then, with the G7, it was like the mono speaker that was really loud, which they've done on the V40 as well. It was like that beautiful LCD, which now on the V40 is a beautiful OLED that they didn't mess up, apparently, unlike the V30 and the Pixel 2 last year, 2XL. I was the same display for those of you who didn't follow. Last year, the V30 and the Pixel 2 XL, so apparently that's been remedied, and of course there's a notch which just makes it a little bit more modern and all that good stuff. But it's kind of like you're like, okay, you've got all the ingredients, but like somehow the final product just still feels like a 90%, you know?
That's exactly right. 90 is, thank you. I wish I actually used that in my video because it feels like it's almost there. And my mindset is, you know, LG, here's a chance for you to eat into that market. You know, granted, you know, iPhone users are not necessarily going to jump away, but when you can say, I offer this, you know, it's kind of taking like the OnePlus approach of saying, we've got 85% of a flagship, and we're not going to charge you, you know, 85%. We'll charge you about 70% of it, and you still love this device, which is what I was hoping for with the V40. And you look at this device and you go, it hits so many things. It's got a smaller battery, but the battery life is really good. And you're going, but your price is just not worth what this device should be because it doesn't ooze premium.
Well, I think there's a number of issues. That's one issue. It doesn't ooze premium. It's like a 90%er instead of a 100%er, right?
Yeah.
Of course, no phone is 100%. But let's say the iPhone and the Galaxies are maybe hitting 95, 98, 99%, right? Mm-hmm. This is like a 90%. So that but then you're looking at, as you said, the price. The problem, I think, the biggest problem is that LG doesn't sell unlocked typically, right? So you're gonna have to go through the carriers, and then immediately you're getting a compromised experience, right? You can't buy the unlocked phone, so now you have to go through carriers and get carrier blow. To me, immediately that's $200 off the phone, right? Immediately, right?
Yeah.
it's like screw you, okay? So now we have, because I have to jump through a bunch of hoops, unlock the phone and remove all the apps that are offending, and I still don't have a pure experience because, you know, the like a carrier indicator is different, like the LTE logo is not LTE, doesn't say the right thing up there. It'll say 4G or whatever BS they decided, and so it becomes a pain. But I'm willing to live with that. If it's like when the G7 came out, I thought if it's a $650 phone, great, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. I don't know how much it was. It was actually more. It was $7 something.
It was $7. I think it was $750.
Yeah. So I fixed $100 less than that. I've been okay. I can live with that. I mean, you know, it's going to be discounted soon anyway. Right, yeah. And with V40, you know, it's going to be discounted soon anyway as well. But then you go like, where's my unlocked model if you're going to charge me $900? You know, and even then, you're still a 90% phone. It's like, I just wish, like you do, I think, that I think we both want to root for them, right? Like, I don't want LG to go the way of HTC, okay?
No.
It's like, they're not going to because they're a much bigger company supported by washing machines and fridges and TVs, right?
Yes, it's true.
But I have a really soft spot for their phones. And like I do for HTC's phones, and I don't want to see them doing the same thing. And it seems to me like that by just hitting what's good enough, 90%, and then trying to be arrogant enough to charge the same prices as competition who really deserves maybe arguably deserves their pricing.
Yeah.
You kind of are shooting yourselves in the foot, and then you don't have an unlocked version. At least if you had an unlocked version, I mean, maybe they will have a V40 unlocked. Maybe they now have a G7 unlocked. I didn't look. I'm sure you can buy a gray market one, but the bottom line is the average consumer that is tech savvy, our audience, is going to look at this and go, I can buy this or OnePlus 6T.
Yeah, exactly.
I can buy this or buy a Galaxy Note unlocked and pay my arm and leg, might give my left kidney to Samsung, but at least I have their best phone unlocked, totally worth $1,000, arguably. And then, you know, or I can give Apple, you know, if you're, I can understand that some people are Apple fans. I get it. I'm a Mac fan. I'm not an iOS and iPhone fan, but I'm a Mac fan. I get it. So I'm just saying, like, I can understand how some people are going to spend $1,400 on a top of the line iPhone, whatever it is, XS, 10S Max. I saw one on the plane the other day, by the way. Yesterday, I was flying back from Ukraine, where I was speaking at a conference, and I saw my first sighting of a Max, and that thing is holy F-balls massive.
You see, for me though, it is the right size phone. Finally, I can actually own. Yeah, I've got big hands.
Too wide. It looks wide. Yeah, you have big hands, but to me, it's the width, right? It's like what I like about other phones that are like big phones, like say the Note.
Yeah, the Note is slim.
They're a little narrower, right? And I can kind of manage it better. My hands are not tiny, but you have bigger hands. I get it. I think it's still. I was surprised how big it was. In that guy's hand, it felt like he was he was holding like an iPad mini. It was hilarious.
I have a question for you. So on my own podcast, or actually my own show on YouTube on the weekends, we always talk about different brands, and LG is one brand we keep coming back saying one specific thing they just don't do well with any of the devices is the fact that they do a poor job at marketing and pushing the message. You know, for instance, you know, you talk about the G7 or even the V40. The V40 has, you know, a headphone jack, which is now a rare commodity.
It's phenomenal, too. It's like the quad DAC is, you know, I'm a bit of an audiophile. I don't have the headphone collection you have, but, you know, I like my headphones, too.
Yeah.
And I am a wired headphone fan simply because nothing comes close to that. If you have the right DAC and amp behind those headphones, you can use headphones that are 30 years old that still sound incredible today. And you can keep them for that long. I have some headphones that are over 20 years old that I've had for a long time, and they still sound fantastic. And so I love that wired. I love the ability to plug it in directly to the phone. And LG is the only one in the entire world providing a level of quality that, to me, nobody else can touch. Like, you have to spend thousands of dollars on dedicated DACs and amps to get the same. Like, when you're buying a G7 or V40, you're buying, imagine yourself buying $2,000 more of audio equipment. Basically, that's what you're getting if you use the headphone jack. And people, you know, they don't maybe hear the difference. I don't know, but I don't think they count that in the purchase. And you and I clearly not counting that when we're binging them for being, you know, for being a $900 phone. We obviously are contradicting ourselves here. But the point is, I think that they do a great service to the entire audiophile community by putting that quad DAC and that headphone jack on their phones, and they don't market it, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, do you think they have a chance, or do you think they will actually do that marketing for the V40, especially with the tough October competition? I
don't think so. I think it's going to be the same LG cruising along. Look, we made another fridge. Buy it. You can buy it through Best Buy and Amazon, or go to your local Lowe's or your local Home Depot and buy our fridge. It's basically how they're treating the thing. And that's the problem. It's like there's no passion, no love, no energy, no excitement. And I want, you know, not only do I want them to send me phones in time, but I want them to freaking be excited about what they do. Because they are making the first phone with 5 cameras. They're making the first phone that has a telephoto, a regular, and a wide angle on the phone. Even though the telephoto, as you said, is kind of messed up because it doesn't have YS. What were they thinking? Seriously? Let's talk about the camera in a sec. But I think that they have that, and they have the quad DAC, and then they have a beautiful display, and they have, you know, wireless charging, which not many phones have these days. Yeah. And they have all kinds of cool things in a nice package with really good specs. What is it? Snapdragon 845, 6 gigs of RAM, right?
Yeah,
Micro SD expansion. So whatever it comes with, like 64, I think can be expanded. Yeah. I mean, look, the battery, even though the battery's a little on the small size, 3300, everybody's been playing with it, says the battery life is holding up. Unlike, by the way, as an aside, I just wanted to mention, I finally took my Note 9 with me on this 10-day trip to Ukraine. The people there are really nice, and I had a local SIM in the phone, and I was disappointed with battery life. Holy crap, that Note 9 was just not holding up for me. I don't know what was going on. So, you know, don't let battery life, I mean, it was fine. It was just like depleting faster than I expect for a phone with a 4,000 milliamp battery. It could be because Ukraine has like problems, you know, in the sense that they just launched 4G. And they launched it on 2600 megahertz, which, as you know, is not very efficient. Yeah. So, but my Note was compatible with those bands, it's an unlocked Note. It was really cool. I was like, oh, I get to use my Pixel 2 XL could not see 2600 megahertz to save its life, by the way. So that was good. But that's just an aside to let you know that, don't judge a phone by the battery capacity, size, right? Just so everybody's pretty happy overall with the battery life on the V40. So I think, look, you know, and even though it is feeling a little on the cheapish side because it's light and the back feels like plastic, even though it's glass, it's still a glass phone. It's still well made. You know, it's still a flagship. And so it's tough because on one hand, like, they're not marketing in, they're selling it a little too much for the expectations. If they sold it unlocked and sold it at 800, I think there would be a case for me to advocate strongly for this phone. right?
Yeah.
But at 900 that I can only get through a carrier, now you're going to say, and everybody's going to say this, and it's true, that wait a month and it'll be 200 less on every carrier, right?
Yeah.
But 200 is still 700. And at that point, you get the OnePlus 6T to worry about. You have the Mate 20 Pro to worry about.
Yeah.
And the people who are listening to this and listening to Thunder and I talk right now, you're the kind of people who don't bat an eye and buy yourself a Mate 20 Pro unlocked from Amazon gray market. You'll do it. So I trust that you have the ability to decide whether you want to buy a V40. And right now you're like, what do I do? And that's part of the problem with LG. They don't have the mind share of the folks like you and me, right?
Do you think their pre-order package will help? It's coming, if you pre-order, you get the DJI Osmo 2 and 256GB SSD. I'm sorry, micro SD card. With it?
I mean, it certainly helps. Like, what was it was it the G7 or the V30 last year where they give you an LG TV if you ordered it from the right carrier? I think it was Verizon for a while.
I think Verizon had the it's the V30.
And you know what? Yes, but I mean, like, again, now you're talking to a weird part of the market. You're talking about the coupon people, okay? and I'm nothing wrong with the coupon people. I sometimes use coupons myself, but there's a category of people that's like, they're really into it.
Yeah.
And those are not the kind of people who care about phones.
That's
so
true.
you're kind of shooting yourselves in the foot. These are the kind of people who are going to buy a mid-range LG phone from their carrier locked and don't care, right? They're not going to go hunt for a V40 because, and so I'm like, I'd much rather you come out at out of the gate at 800 with unlocked version and, where are the nice fancy colors too? Like all the videos I'm seeing are like black ones and gray ones. And I'm like, LG, you've made red phones and blue phones and purple phones before. Even Samsung is selling like a pink Galaxy Note 9. I have it.
Yeah, I think they have more colors. I think they said it was 4 in total, but the US we're getting, it's called Morocco Blue. But the funny thing is,
the Morocco Blue is really nice, actually.
Yeah, but every angle it kind of looks like black when you basically move it around.
Too dark.
Yeah, it's too dark. So again, it's the same frustration of you guys are almost there and you keep doing certain things that just don't take you to the next level.
Listen, LG, if you're listening, and I hope you are because, I just sent you an email this morning so I can get my V40. I want you to know we love you. I think Thunder loves you too.
Yeah.
It's just we want you to do better. Like not better in terms of the hardware and the phone. It's fine. I mean, yeah, the lack of OIS was definitely on the tele is something we can still talk about. But I'm talking about the pricing, why are you relying on carriers so much, LG? Like, screw the carriers. Nobody needs the carriers in this country anymore. Everybody knows that. Samsung doesn't. I mean, of course, you still need to be friends with them. We get it. But you don't need them. Yeah. It's like, you don't need them anymore. Apple has clearly shown that nobody needs carriers.
Although rumors would dictate that at least one of our next topics will probably have a carrier friend with OnePlus.
Well, but that's, I think, the evolution. If you're a small player, you want to start unlocked, getting a niche market, build tech savvy early adopters, have them become your friends, and eventually that's going to die out. I give you an example. I think one of the reasons Pebble wasn't able to successfully transition to being competitive with Apple, even though they own the low end of the market, I mean, you could buy a Pebble for $99 at freaking Best Buy and Target. Okay, Target.
Yeah.
So the point is, the reason they did maintain that lead wasn't just because the Apple Watch is an awesome product, because the Apple Watch is an expensive product. It was because they continue to believe that they should be a niche player. And you see, OnePlus is smart. They're understanding that they're at the point now where they need to move beyond that status and maybe be taken seriously as a flagship maker. And their prices are going up, reflecting that. Their quality is going up. They are finally making phones with good imaging performance for the first time with the OnePlus 6, and I'm sure the 6T will follow suit. And so they are transitioning right now. And that's why for them, it's actually super critical to get a partnership with a carrier. And I think LG, it's completely the reverse. They've been with carriers forever. They've been, in fact, being taken advantage of carriers forever. Do you remember how even all the way to the G4, they had a custom version for Verizon with custom back buttons?
Yes.
It's not that long ago that LG would bend over for the carriers. So, Come on, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you're still thinking like you're like some kind of like Stockholm syndrome prisoner of the carriers thing here, LG. Like you need to get out of that mindset and move forward and go like, we are a bona fide Korean master company, like a huge monster of a beast of a company. We make tons of fridges and washing machines, and we make tons of phones too. And our phones are awesome. And if you want them, carriers, come and talk to us. And I'm sure the carriers will say, we don't care. But that doesn't matter because they're still going to sell tons of phones if they price them right and they market them right. And they're not doing any of that.
That's true.
I think it's kind of a vicious cycle. It's kind of like, I talk about electric cars a lot on the show. It's kind of like the existing car companies are not trying really hard to make a good electric car that competes with Tesla right now.
Yeah.
It's like it's embedded in their DNA. They can't break out of that vicious cycle. It's like they know what they have to do. We know what they have to do, and they're not doing it. And LG, I think, is in that weird vicious cycle of poor marketing, 90% phones, and not like breaking free from the carrier relationship, at least in the US. And I don't know how they're going to survive long term if they do that, because Huawei is just rising and rising and rising, even though they're not rising in the US. They're becoming so critical. I mean, right now, if you ask me as an engineer, who makes the best phones in the world? To me, not in order, not in any particular order, it is Apple, Samsung, and Huawei.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with you.
There's no doubt about it. It's not even a contest at this point. Everyone else is way below there. Yeah, everyone else is copycat.
That is very true. I do agree with you that thinking that, Huawei has made that push to where the likes of LG, HTC, Motorola had, vacated that number 3 spot. And the number 3 spot in mobile is a very big spot. Some people may think that, oh, well, it's a big 2. No, it really was a very big spot to hold that number 3 because, especially on the Android side, we've had, just because Samsung's number 1 doesn't mean that people didn't think, like, look, I want something else. Somebody makes something better or different that I like. And LG at least used to hold that for a while. HTC had it for a bit. Motorola was there in the earlier days of Android. And now it's, Huawei's like, what, we will spend the money and we'll go there. And I do like their thinking of saying, even though they're not in the US market by government, restriction, they still were able to become number 2, at least in terms of units worldwide, because they decided, look, we need to put words into action for our devices. And that's, like you said, that's what LG is missing in their push for at least some kind of Android market share.
Absolutely. And, I have a feeling Huawei is going to blow our minds in London. I'm going to be there. My little finger tells me that they're going to be really impressing us. And they have every time they launch a product lately, it's just like, okay, wow, this is solid. This is really competitive. And of course, we don't see it in the US, but like Honor is in the US and they make some great phones. You're playing with the Honor Play right now. So am I.
Yeah.
And for the money, $300, that thing slays, right?
Oh, it is a beast. It's one of those things where you're going, okay. I think they looked at it and they said, okay, Poco phone came out. They dropped this phone that's $300. It's got an 845. We can do the same thing. We've got the Kirin 970 processor, and we can offer in a little bit more with our AI capabilities because that's what the 970 does, right? With this camera, and we can add it to our camera, so we don't have a Poco phone with a camera that's you just not caring about this, with a device where you're spending $300 and you're going, you know what? This is actually pretty good. And I'm impressed. I just have to say.
It's interesting to me because I think obviously, the Poco phone, Xiaomi's done a really good job at marketing that thing because it got all the influencers super jazzed up about it, right?
Yeah.
Not so much the mainstream media, but the tech media, but folks like Lou at Unbox Therapy and stuff like. And I get it. Like I requested one. I'm really looking forward to getting one at some point. But I think the Honor Play is kind of the untold story here because it is kind of the same market. It's, geared at gaming primarily, hence the name, because it's got a beautiful big display. Mm-hmm. It's got that Kirin 970, which is almost as good as an 845 in terms of performance. Maybe not GPU, but it's definitely up there, right? It's definitely better than even an 835. And it's like, The phone is $300. They've got the AI camera, but they scaled it down in quality, and it's actually quite decent. It's not the best in low light, but I used it on this trip to Ukraine, and I got some really good photos out of it. For a $300 phone, I'm like, this is perfectly fine. This is honestly probably even better than other $300 phones in terms of imaging. And it's not a glass back, it's a metal body now, but you got to make some compromises when you put your best chip and a great display into a phone that also has good speakers so you can play games on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good job, Honor. And we're going to talk about Honor some more further in the show because of the 8X, because, the 7X last year was kind of like killer for the money. And I'm wondering if they can replicate this with the just freshly announced 8X. But I want to kind of wrap up on the V40 a little bit. And I want to talk about camera because, I'm a camera person.
Yeah.
So what's your take? You played with the camera. You've had the phone for a bit. Like, we know that the Tele doesn't have OIS, which like the U12 is, the HTC U12 doesn't have OIS on the Tele. And that's definitely been an issue for the U12 as well. In fact, in low light, I would use the main camera and zoom in digitally because I would get a better photo usually than using the Tele in low light because of lack of OIS. So the main sensor is, so let's recap really quick. The main sensor, right, is a 12 megapixel large pixels f/1.5, the same as the aperture on the Galaxy S9 and Note 9 when it's in its best like low light mode, right? Because it has dual apertures. And it's got, finally, it's the first G-series phone. I'm sorry, a V-series phone with a large pixel count, pixel size, because they've always been 1 micron pixels usually on LG phones. Like they go for high count pixels like 16 or 20, but then they go for small pixels. And we all know that big pixels are the way to go, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So they did that, and then the telephoto is is it 2.4? No, 2.2.
I
can't remember.
I think.
Oh no, it's 1.9. It's just the same. It's the same as the G7.
Okay,
1.9.
Right.
The wide. Sorry, that's not the Tele. The ultra wide is 1.9.
Yeah.
Ultra wide 1.9, 16 megapixels. That's basically the same camera as it's on the G7. And then we know that one's a pretty solid one. And then they have this telephoto, which I don't know the f-stop. I think it's f2.2 or 2.4, and it's what is it? 12 megapixel as well?
Yeah, I think it's 12 as well on that.
And no OIS setting. So the main camera has OIS, by the way, right? I'm pretty sure it does.
The main camera has OIS.
And so apparently, basically, so now you have, how you carry those lenses for your phone? Some of us do.
Yeah.
Who's got Moment is one company. There's another one that's really Holoclip, right? Those are
Holoclip and Moments are the two big ones.
Moments are like the big ones. Okay. So imagine instead of carrying all that around every day, you just have 3 cameras, not just 3 lenses, but actually 3 cameras to choose from. And so in a way, it's good that you have the 3 lenses, but at the same time, it means that you're going to get different quality because the sensors are different. There's no OIS on the other 2, etc. So in practice, how has it been for you? Did you find that you were more creative? Did you find that are you happy with the system?
I got mixed results from it. So the one thing I'll say though, if you're taking portrait photos, the bokeh is very, very rich on this. So it really does that well if you really want to get that deep bokeh, and also from a distance. So the typical bokeh is I think 3 feet away max, if I'm not mistaken. They tell you can. I've taken photos standing 10 feet away. There are little discrepancies, but you can still get the kind of image that you want. So I do like that with it. I think my problem has been a lot of discrepancies. I'm not sure. Part of me is not sure if it's some of the processing they do, or is it something to do with just the lenses and themselves, because some of the low light photography at certain points, I had a couple of pictures I took in my video. I was having dinner with a friend. I took a photo. It looked great. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm like, stay right there. And I took 3 more photos just to see how I would, cope after just taking a series of photos of the same thing. And the 2 others just looked slightly off. And he, it was the same. It was lit by 1 candle. He was in the same position, and it still gave me slightly different looks with those photos. And I found that continually with it, just me taking a lot of low light photos. The ultra wide is nice. It's just that, sometimes I want to actually do some vlog, recording with that ultra wide, especially when they're talking about the DJI gimbal. You wanna. I mean, Comic-Con is coming up this weekend in New York, and I would love to try that out there, but it's gonna look terrible, just like it did on the on the G7. So I'm like, I don't really want to use that at all to record video, because it just becomes pretty much a hot mess at that point. And I think that's why I say I felt like they're almost there. And it's don't get me wrong, it does take some really nice photos. The AI sharpening, I think they do a real good job there. So when you take a photo with AI cam on and you take one with AI cam off, it's subtle. So it's not one of those super punchy feels, kind of like what Huawei has a very punchy feel with their AI.
Yeah.
This is toned back down, where you're like, okay, that's nice. I like that. I like the touch that you gave me there, as opposed to just the normal auto mode. So like I said, it's a bit hit or miss with the camera.
Right.
I feel that some things might be fixed with software, but with the lack of OIS, there's just certain things that you just can't,
Do you think I was going to say, you think it's just software because maybe it was an early production you got? Because Michael Fisher and I did a video together. You guys should check it out. So I'm going to put it in the show notes. We did a video. We both did our own videos of the Toyota Mirai, the hydrogen powered car.
Yeah.
It's an electric car that's powered by hydrogen. And we actually use a G7 for most of our production work, simply because of the wide angle. And we didn't gimbal mount it for most of it. And I mean, obviously, it came out really well, but we didn't do any low light stuff, right? To be clear. Mm-hmm. So I'm generally pretty happy with the ultra wide angle on the G7, simply because nobody else has an ultra wide angle that does f/1.9. But you're right, OIS would just be a little extra, or some sort of digital stabilization when doing video, right? Would be really good. So yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you're right. I think it's still not good enough to use for all the things you want to do, but I'm hoping that they can tweak some stuff in software.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, in terms of software, when I got my device, they said, no, this is final. It's just whatever you get in terms of updates will come from carrier. So at least we were told that we had final software.
So you did get carrier devices. What carrier did they give you?
No carrier devices. No, it was non-carrier specific.
Oh, so they're unlocked. Oh, cool.
Unlocked, yeah. So I mean, that's what they stated. So like I said, I don't hate the images. It's just it's a little weird. I think the part that I think annoyed a lot of people is the wide on the front facing camera. It's just not wide enough.
And it's only 5 megapixel too. So not only is it not wide, but it's really kind of low quality, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when you see it's got a wide, I'm like, okay, this is great. And you hit the button, you're like, I was like, I have long hands, so I can stretch this a little bit more. But you guys were promising me something wider than this, so I was hoping. It kind of feels like how, not to bring Samsung back in, but how Samsung's front-facing camera has not really improved, although they keep talking about it every year. So I'm like, guys, it's the same sensor, or you've been using it for a while.
I know, it's kind of funny. And I think the other thing too is that the feeling I get from the V40 is that they basically the same setup as the V10 was in the front, regular and wide, but at least the regular camera is better, high resolution, 8 megapixel, but the V10 had a really wide second front camera. And this is, I saw the comparisons on various reviews, and it's definitely not worth the extra camera. You're like, it's barely wide enough, and you're giving me 5 megapixel. What's the point? Now, of course, it lets them do bokeh a little bit better, I presume. How is the front-facing camera for that?
For me, in my case, it's been a lot of misses than hits.
So what you're saying is that a Pixel 2 XL takes a better front-facing bokeh photo with a single camera, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this basically chops off side of my head almost.
This happens so much. It's like, how is it that Google, with just basically run-of-the-mill sensors and lenses on the front and back of their phones, manages to? It's just software, Yeah. And it just goes to show you, it's crazy to me that. It's like when the U12 had dual front-facing camera, right?
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't do anything. The bokeh sucks. The front camera is kind of meh. It's like you spend all this money on extra hardware and we're not seeing any of the results of it, you know? So, yeah.
That is true.
They also announced a watch.
Yes.
Did you get to play with it? The Watch W7.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy.
It is. It's been getting a lot of flack. I've noticed from a lot of people.
Let's just tell folks in case you missed it. It's got analog hands, like real physical hands with a motor that move the hands over top of apparently an LCD display. Did I get that right, or is it OLED?
I think it's an OLED display.
Okay, it's got to be OLED because it's
Yeah.
LG, right? So, okay,
Yeah.
on top of OLED, which makes perfect sense because it makes it even thinner because it's hard. It's probably a pretty thick watch because of all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have, and here is really weird, it doesn't have a heart rate sensor, which, as you know today, if you're going to have a smartwatch, you need to at least have basic, fitness and health tracking, and heart rate is important. So you used it, you played with it. What was your thoughts?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it because I am a watch person. I like regular watches, and I mean, for me, just to give people some background to my thinking, I like the functionality of the Apple Watch, the tech, the things it does. I hate the design and I hate the battery life. So for me, it doesn't mentally work. I like the Galaxy Watch for its design and it's better battery life, but it doesn't have all the functionalities of the Apple Watch. So I rather would go with a watch that gives me that styling and that will last as long. And, the fitness part isn't there with the heart rate sensor, but honestly, if I'm going to spend $450, I'm not going to use it in the gym. I just will not use it. I'll get a Fitbit. I'll get something that is a true tracker that does that. But
that makes sense.
I love the functionality. Now, some people complained. I just was going through Twitter and looking at what some people talked about. It was like, oh, you have to hit the button to read your messages or things like that. And not really. You can really read it without hitting the button. It's if it's really a long conversation, you want to actually go through that. You just have to hit the button to give you that separation. The Wear OS has been tailored for the arms themselves, so it actually works pretty well with it without you feeling like it's being cluttered. But the build and design, it looks really nice. I think it's geared to someone who wants a smartwatch. I mean, who wants a smartwatch that's really more like a watch. Right. And it's not concerned about looking and spending time on the smartwatch. Like, okay, I see my notifications. This is fine. I can always check it on my phone. I think that's who it's geared for.
And presumably it has good battery life, right? Because the display is off unless it gets a notification or something. And it always shows the time because it always has the physical hands, which is one of the things I always have on my watches, at least the ones that support that feature, is the always on display because I want to be able to read the time just glancing at it without any gestures.
Yeah.
And Apple Watch is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan is because it fails at being a watch, which should show the time always. But I think battery life obviously is a big issue. And Qualcomm did the Snapdragon Wear 3100 announcement that has like a low power coprocessor that can drive the display for just displaying the time. So I guess LG is kind of working around that by having analog real hands, which I think is a really interesting thing. You're right, people have been very negative in the news about this so far, and I think maybe they're not just getting what the market for it is. I think you nailed it saying, you wouldn't wear this in the gym. This is just a way to get a nice mechanical watch with the bonus of notifications and apps and other features on your wrist, right?
Yeah, when you actually see it, it is a well-crafted timepiece. I'll give you just the description of what happened at the event. They announced they spent time on the phone, and then they announced the watch, and then we went upstairs to go take a look at devices. Everyone was over the watch. Right. Literally, a few people around the phone, but everyone was kind of trying to find out what this watch is. And when you look at it, it's well crafted. It's crafted by I believe it's a Swiss time maker, and it looks like something that, yes, you spent money on this, as opposed to a lot of smartwatches out there, which, it kind of looks premium, but when you spend time with it, you're like, okay, maybe not so much. So it really is going for that crowd. And LG saying, look, you know what, this is what this should be. Probably they will have a fitness focused smartwatch down the line and say, okay, this is more in tune with Snapdragon Wear 3100 because
that makes sense.
Yeah, you've got that fit and feel. But I mean, like I said, I like the watch and I love the fact that it's got a 100-day battery life in just watch mode, which is basically you've got the hands.
Pretty impressive. Yeah. No, you expect that. How does it charge? Is it contacts? Is it wireless? What's the deal?
It's contact. So you've got a charging dock. So basically, they use the old base that they had for the last.
LG Watch.
LG Watch or Bay. No, I can't remember which
Whatever it was,
number, yes. And I was hoping for wireless charging on that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially
because those contacts wear out, man. Like every watch I've had for over a year that has the middle contacts on it has, had issues charging because I need to clean the contacts. They get dirty, they get corroded and stuff. Yeah, I currently have the Galaxy Watch and the big one, the 46 millimeter, and I'm really, really happy and impressed with it, to be frank. It's been great. So far, it's been probably one of my best smartwatches. And I'm, considering I'm a Wear OS person, this is Tizen. It's actually pretty good. And I'm really looking forward to the new Wear OS watches, especially the ones running with the Snapdragon Wear 3100. I'm looking forward to seeing, there are rumors of Huawei making a smartwatch again. That is something I'm excited about as well, because the Watch 1, the original Huawei watch, was a really nice smartwatch. It had small bezel, large screen. It wasn't too thick. I mean, it looked really looked the part. Now I have a Watch 2 that I was wearing before the Galaxy Watch, and the Huawei Watch 2 was kind of a step down, I felt, from the Huawei Watch 1. I put a leather band on it, so it's a little more stately looking. But because that rubber band kind of sucks, and I'm planning. I
love the way you just call it stately looking.
It's stately, yes. Oh dear, oh darling, bring the tea. That kind of thing. And so I was actually looking at getting a leather band for my watch, my Galaxy Watch as well, because the plastic bands are not really my thing.
Yeah.
But so, I'm glad that you bring a counterpoint to this discussion because, as a watch person, somebody who worked at Pebble for a while and stuff, I'm fond of good watches. And I was like, what's all this negativity? Like, I kind of thought to myself, I'm going to reserve judgment until I try one out. But at the same time, you did, and you're a watch guy. And so I'm glad to kind of hear your take, and it's kind of different from the others. So good stuff. So I think, look, we got some other stuff we want to talk about. We kind of touched on it a little bit on the OnePlus 6 and the Honor 8X, OnePlus 6T, and Honor 8X. I want to kind of get some of that out of the way so we can talk about Microsoft's announcement because you're a headphone guy. I'm a headphone person. Mm-hmm. And, there's some headphones in there too. So the reason I'm bringing the OnePlus 6T up again is because there's a story on CNET. It's an exclusive interview with Pete Lau, who's one of the co-founders of OnePlus. And he actually, reveals and confirms a bunch of stuff in there, including the in-display fingerprint reader and the lack of headphone jack. So I presume, like all of us, pretty much everyone universally, the OnePlus 6 hit all the buttons for you, right? It was a good phone. You're happy, right? It was
solid, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're looking forward to the OnePlus 6T doing the same and just iterating on that good feeling, yeah?
I was looking for that, yeah.
Yeah. So what is your, how do you feel right now knowing that it's coming soon and that we have some solid information from Pete in this interview? How you feeling about the in-display fingerprint reader, about the lack of headphone jack?
I like the in-display fingerprint reader. It still has a way to go, I think, but I like the fact that it just adds a sense of wow for a product segment and pricing that is not, high end. It kind of adds a little bit of that high end factor to it, which is great, especially if the rumors are true that T-Mobile is picking it up. So, for the U.S. carriers, that's, for a U.S. audience, that's
I think you're right. That is total. I think a combination of the teardrop notch, the in-display fingerprint reader, which would be the first of an officially sold in the U.S. device, and both of these things, and the fact that it's supposed to be, available for purchase at T-Mobile stores. I hope they make a John Ledger purple pink edition.
Oh,
that would be really cool,
yes,
right?
Yes.
That would be dope. I think this is a good combo. This is a combo that will get some attention and hopefully some sales. So I'm 100% with you on this. The in-display, of course, needs to prove itself. I've used some that So far, we're kind of iffy, not as good as I wanted to, a little slow. So I'm hoping that this one is kind of like the finally the generation of in-display fingerprint reader that we feel is fast and adequate enough that we don't have to worry about it anymore, and it's just there and we use it, right?
Yeah.
That and good Face ID, which obviously OnePlus has done so far, would go a long way, I think, to making this be working properly for us. So the thing though, the other thing that is obviously a bit of a bummer to me is the lack of headphone jack. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's sad, and I think it's also it points to two things. When I had this discussion with a few friends actually about this yesterday, I think one is the fact that truly OnePlus does not listen to its fans, because they clearly stated this, and fans were like, no. I think the poll they put up said 60-40 said no, please leave the headphone jack. And two, actually I'll say three things. And two, OnePlus is forgetting its largest consumer base, which is India, where
right. Oh yeah, important.
It's really important to have a headphone jack. I'm not, not everyone there. I'm guesstimating has wireless headphones. So having a headphone jack and having headphones you've had for at least a little bit of time is something you can easily plug in. And I think it's just disregarding one of its biggest bases that really loves the phone, because with the OnePlus, OnePlus fans talked about so many things like, we have the headphone jack. Apple doesn't. That my phone's only $529, and it does all these different things. And now you can't make that claim. And I think the third thing is they're beholden to the fact that their devices, in terms of hardware design, is based on what Oppo does. So
right.
It really isn't a matter of fact of this is what they're trying to do. And I think they should stop selling that narrative, because it just really is false, and just go with the fact that, look, this is the design we have now and this is what we're using. Yeah,
look, I agree with you on that narrative. It drives me nuts. I keep telling them about it. I called Carpe out on his tweets in the show last week. I really feel like, you got to stop making excuses and shoveling BS at people. It's like you're either just going to say, we decided this is a cost thing. We decided this is, even if I don't agree with the battery life, the bigger battery thing, that's kind of like an iffy one. But if you say, look, this is the design we get from BBK. It doesn't include a headphone jack, so we're going with it. Like, even if you spin that in a way that's reasonably understandable by people, we won't like it, but at least it doesn't feel like BS.
That is very true.
Right? And then the other thing is it made room for the in-display fingerprint. Please give me a break. That and the battery made room for the battery. It's BS. If you really applied yourself, you'd have a headphone jack. It's just not a design that was available to you.
Yeah.
And yes, it's inevitable that eventually you're going to drop the headphone jack. I just feel like it's too early, especially for the OnePlus audience, especially as you said, India. I never thought of that. That's a really good argument. I'm bummed because honestly, the OnePlus 6 sounds really good on headphones. Once you switch that setting that's hidden in the menu to turn on the high quality sound thing, it's like, holy crap balls, this holds its own. And now we're going to be losing that, because who knows how good that DAC and headphone amp are going to be on that $9 external dongle, right?
Yeah.
Assuming it's a digital dongle, maybe they'll go with an analog dongle, in which case they keep the DAC and the headphone amp inside the phone. But then why not add a connector? Hello? I mean, oh God, it's so difficult for me to wrap my head around this whole thing. So yeah.
It was because of the courage Apple showed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The courage. Oh boy. Yeah. So, that's one thing. And so interesting interview. I'll link it in the show notes. Have a look. It's worthy reading. It's going to be at least another, about 2 or 3 weeks before we see that OnePlus 6T. So,
yeah.
Some good reading to keep yourselves all oiled up for that purchase. And then the Honor 8X. So the Honor 8X, again, as I said earlier, I'm excited because I liked the Honor 7X last year. I thought that for $200, $250, whatever it was a really good phone for the money. It surprised in many ways when I actually used it. Now, things have changed a lot. You can get some really good phone. Like, you can get a lot of phone for $200 now. You can get, to me, the Moto G6 was a really solid phone in that price point, especially with glass back and its design. So it's interesting that the Honor 8X, as glass back now, has the AI camera from the Honor 10, Honor Play, P20, P20 Pro, including, and this blew my mind, and I don't know if you saw this, and I know you have a phone, so I'm wondering if you noticed this, but it has the night mode, the tripod, you don't need a tripod, up to 6 second stabilized night shot thing.
Thanks for letting me know, because I actually will try that out. I had no idea.
Yeah, it has that. Can you believe it has that on a $250 phone?
Ooh.
Because it's got the Kirin 770 in there.
So
it's got like the kind of mid-range-ish, higher quality mid-range chip.
Yeah.
Like the equivalent of a Snapdragon 660 or something. And to me, that means that they're trickling down now some of their AI / machine learning stuff to their cheaper processors.
Yeah.
And making that available. I think to me, that's going to be, if that phone is sold in the US, I don't know what the deal is with that phone. Is it going to be sold in the US?
It will be sold in the US. As far as I know, it will be sold in the US. It's an interesting device. It's, I've seen some people who've done reviews. I guess they got it early, or I guess they just said it was a review, but some people called it the iPhone XS Max of the budget range.
It could be, because the 7X last year felt very much like, the best phone in the $200-$250 range.
It's well built. I mean, so far I haven't actually played with it much, because I opened it up and I was playing around with it, and I had to literally run to the LG V40 event.
Right, totally.
But it did feel really solid, and I was looking at it, and I really thought it was about 300. So I was a little confused at first. I was like, is this 300? Because the Play's 300, and then I had to check my emails to see the pricing, at least the suggested pricing that they mentioned. I was like, oh, okay, this is very, very interesting. And I think the only thing that I'm concerned about is positioning, and the fact that they have a little bit too many devices. So they've got the Honor,
they do have a lot. Yeah, the Honor 10 is another one. It's 500 and. Yeah.
Yeah, the Honor 10, there's the Honor View 10, there is the Honor Play, and then we also have the Honor 8X.
Well, technically the View 10 is 6 months old, so it doesn't count anymore as a new phone, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're right, because they still sell all of these phones. And then I think the other thing that's a little weird about the 8X, in my opinion, so it's got the, last year I kind of knocked the 8X for a few things, the 7X for a few things. It didn't have glass back. I wanted a glass back. It didn't have... It didn't have NFC. I don't know if the 8X has NFC. I didn't look at the specs, but that was an issue for me. So you can't do, Android, Google Pay. But let's see if they remedied that. And then the final thing that they did last year that I didn't like, but they didn't remedy this year, is they didn't switch to USB Type-C. It's still micro USB. What? Like, maybe I get it for Indian market or something, but like, you're selling this in the US, like, you have USB-C on the Honor Play that's only $50 more. Like, what? It's just so random.
I don't understand that, and I think that it's one of those things that it's a little. I get it, and I also don't get it, because I'm going, okay, at this price point you can kind of argue micro, because you're saying people who are buying at this price point, have devices like this that they can at least move forward with. But on the other hand, too, it's really limiting, and it's causing fragmentation in just your, charging of all your devices in your device range. So
it's fragmenting your bag of goodies.
Yes.
Well, it depends who you are. If you're us, it definitely fragments your bag, because we're USB-C all the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and speaking of that, this is the perfect segue towards the Microsoft announcements, where USB-C was absent of everything except the Studio 2 and the headphones.
Surface headphones, yeah.
So let's talk about the... you were there, I presume?
Yes,
maybe?
I was there.
Because it's in New York, so I assume you would have gone. I tried really to come to New York this week for this, because I was like going to do the twofer of the Microsoft and the LG, but... I just got back from this conference where I spoke in Ukraine, and so I was just like, I don't think I can make it happen. It's too tight, and it didn't happen. So I'm bummed I couldn't go, but tell us what you think. I mean, obviously the Surface Surface Pro 6 is just an update to the 5, and then the Surface Laptop 2 is an update to the Surface Laptop. Specs wise, they're all improved, but there's no physical design differences in those, right? They look like exactly the same as before.
The laptop 2 looks exactly the same before, except you have it in matte black as well.
The new color, right? Matte black for both.
Both. The Surface Pro 6, I was holding it. I felt it was a little thinner, but I wasn't sure because I even asked a few Microsoft reps and they're like, no, we don't think so. But then you're looking at it, you're going, it kind of feels that way. Yeah. So, but that's the only thing I question. I will say this though, Panos does a fantastic job of selling because the rumors, I knew the rumors and I was like, okay, it's probably a refresh because this doesn't feel like a big event. He comes up stage and he does his thing and I was feeling more excited about checking out the device afterwards. So
Panos is really good. Yeah,
I give him kudos for doing that. But I think in terms of build and finish with the matte black, it just feels a little better because they had the different colors side by side. And when you feel it, I don't know, whether it's the matte finish itself just makes it feel a little bit better as a device. And I am very happy it's got a quad core processor in there now.
So it's got a Gen 8 processor on both those machines. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't know whose review I was watching. I think it might have been The Verge's, where they said that obviously because the Surface Pro is made of magnesium and the Surface laptop is made of aluminum, even though they both have a new matte black finish option, they're actually physically different feeling and looking finishes because of the different material underneath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true.
So did you notice that, or is that really obvious? Or
I mean, I didn't think about the materials. I felt they felt different, but I was comparing because I have both last year's versions of both devices, and I felt like they just felt different to both generations from the past. But I think they're probably right because you will definitely get a different feel and finish for each one. In comparison, that just wasn't really ringing in my head. It was more comparing to last year's Surfaces.
Right, totally. Yeah. And then the Studio 2 strangely still has a 7th gen chip in it, a mobile chip, because as you know, the Studio is a pretty small enclosure and they're not putting desktop grade chips in there. But they did bump the graphics performance significantly, right? They put some new, I think, NVIDIA chips in there.
Yeah, they've got the 1070 in there, which means that I could edit video quite well.
Are you getting one?
The things
Thunder Studio 2?
I can't justify it though. I have a big rig here that I just can't justify the cost.
Yeah, you have it. You don't need it. You've got all the things. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it looks nice though. I would say in terms of what they showed in performance and having that there, I was just I threw this out to them. I said, look, you've got the new Surface. The big screens that you can write on the Surface. I can't remember what it's called again. The Office surfaces that are.
The big Microsoft the displays that you use in the boardroom. Boardrooms,
yeah. And that has a modular upgrade setup, and I was like, guys, you need to bring that into the studio.
Totally.
And even if I can just swap my graphics cards twice in 2 years, I will gladly do this, and then I will upgrade to the next one because this will actually allow us. Because you're looking at graphics design houses to use this kind of stuff, and they're not going to necessarily upgrade every year. But if they're upgrading the card, you're still getting their business and keeping them in.
I think the reason they redid a whole new one is because the display is also brighter, I hear, and it has more contrast. So I guess it's a new display as well.
It is beautiful. I mean, they had an artist sit down and he was just sketching a few things, and you could see the colors and it was the gradient of colors, especially just black, and how you could see that gradient go all the way through. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, I wish I had that skill, which I don't. But it was good to see on that display.
Yeah, and then they switched to pure SSDs as well, because I think the last Studio had some hybrid drive option or something. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting. But what I'm most excited about, and you probably are too, because we're both kind of headphones people, are the Surface headphones. And as an aside, I just want to say I am using currently, for this trip to Ukraine, I took with me the Sony Mark III 1000, whatever they are, the 1000X. WH-1000X M3.
Yeah.
What a salad of words and letters that is. But I am really impressed with them. They're really solid. Once I turned on LDAC on my phone, and I tweaked the EQ setting a little bit because they're a little too bass heavy for my taste, and I recognize that for other people it's going to hit the sweet spot, and I totally am okay with that. But for me, once I tweaked it a little bit and turned LDAC on, I was like, as an audio person, I can live with these now. And then on top of that, I was blown away by the sound, by the noise canceling performance, and by the battery life performance.
Oh yeah. I love those headphones.
Amazing.
Yeah, those headphones are Sony did. You're right. Sony did a fantastic job on those headphones. And if you're an audiophile, you will definitely love what at least those headphones are doing in terms of music. But the Microsoft Surface headphones are interesting. That's the way I would start it off because design-wise, it's nice. It kind of mirrors design from Bang & Olufsen's H series headphones.
Right.
They've got the dial on the left ear cup that turns your noise cancellation 13 levels.
Yeah, I saw that. So you can adjust the level of it, which is really kind of an interesting idea.
It is really cool because it's really quick. And at least in that setting, because, it's hands-on, it's really loud, people are talking. It worked very well. Now, I wouldn't say maybe it's as good as anyone else. Again, it's just a brief I had a brief test with it, but I thought it worked well. What I was not impressed was the audio.
Oh, really? It was disappointing?
It was a bit disappointing because, and I'm hoping it's just because it's not finalized and, they're not sure. So for me, I felt there was a lot of reverb coming in. When I say a lot, this is for me, I call it a lot, but there was some reverb coming in. And I think the amount of bass in there was really crushing the sound space. So you really, I usually like to listen to either Billie Jean or Michael Jackson whenever I'm testing new headphones because I just want to hear those highs come through. As much as possible, and it just didn't hit. And I was like, come on, guys, we need to sort this out. That I understand maybe there's a lot of, people are interested in bass, but if you're looking at this as a work and, a business and casual hybrid, I don't think you necessarily need that kind of high amount of bass there.
I kind of think Beats did us a disfavor by making such bass heavy headphones that generally sound very flat and kind of crappy in the mid and high end, because that's what people define as good sound today, and it just blows. It's like there are so many headphones you can buy for less than $300, wired ones and some wireless ones, that totally obliterate in terms of sound quality anything you can buy from Beats, and even some wireless ones today that are, whether they're noise canceling or not, that are really solid, like those Sonys I've been testing. That you're like and the Sonys are a bit bass heavy, but you can tweak that at least, which is nice, and you can tweak it in the EQ, in the DSP, in the headphones through the Sony app, so you don't have to change the settings on your phone, which is really important to me, because really that's EQ setting should stay with the headphones.
That's very true.
Exactly, right? And so to me, that's kind of like, how can so many companies still miss on sound quality? Like, it's the whole point of headphones, folks. You're making these things for $300 to $400. Like, hello.
Yeah,
get your shit together.
And I think that's the thing that, when I was talking to the Microsoft engineers, who, at least the PR guys, the PR engineering team, they couldn't give me an answer that I thought was direct to what my sound problem was with this. And it comes, again, Microsoft is not an audio company. So to me, I was really skeptical on this, because I said, if you had partnered with someone as like, okay, look, we know what Samsung has done. They've just bought AKG, and we know that's going to infuse into their products as that thing moves on down the line. So we should see better audio performance, or at least now they're giving us better earbuds in their devices. But you don't have that in Microsoft. We may have maybe sound engineers doing tweaking on Windows, so that Windows gives you at least the best sound output, but not in terms of audio reproduction of drivers. So part of me goes, are you selecting the right drivers for these headphones? Do they drive the audio well? And then the rumored price at $350, I said, forget it. I'll just tell you buy the Sonys and be done.
Yeah, I mean, right now, honestly, if you have $350 to spend, I even have, depending on what your life is like, if you're just sitting at home in a quiet place, sitting at your desk, I'd say buy like Beyerdynamic DT990 Pro, buy AKGs, buy Sennheisers, whatever, right?
Thank you.
Right? But if you are going to take these things on the subway, in an airplane, on the go, and you don't want the wire, there's absolutely no doubt about it right now. You don't even have to shop and compare. Just get the Sonys and be done with it. Seriously. Like, they're that good. I am totally blown away by them. At that price point, you're done. So, you know, where are you? Why are you Microsoft? Honestly, where are you Bose? Honestly, where are you Bowen & Wilkins? I mean, all these companies are making things that are okay, but they're not hitting the mark in every category. It's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, it is. And then that's why I said for me, it was a little strange when I heard that. And I was hoping to hear that they had partnered with someone or they had reached out to, you know, whether it was a Beyerdynamic, because we all know who's partnered with different people now to create this, or even if it was Bang & Olufsen, I would say, okay, so I know where this is coming from. Because even I think some of the thing that I felt was off is that it wasn't tuned right. So maybe even that would help what they're trying to do. Is that, do you have a company, a reliable company tuning your headphones?
Here's the other thing, right? Like, and I think, like, if you buy a pair of like wired headphones, you can't tune them in the headphones. There's no electronics. There's no active components, right? You just have to tune the drivers properly, and it's really hard. I get that. But once you add like all this computer DSP stuff in the headphones for the wireless connectivity and for the noise canceling, you have no reason to not have an audiophile come in and say, here's the best EQ, in my opinion, for these headphones. Because then you can just tweak it and make it part of the firmware and you're done. Like, you absolutely have no reason. You can actually go with slightly worse drivers and compensate in software.
It's exactly so, and reminds me of a company, HyperX Kingston. Even though theirs are gaming headphones, they have no gaming history.
Right.
They use basically off-the-shelf parts, and they have come in and they've released a series of headphones that I was truly shocked, and I went, seriously, I thought this was going to be completely crap. So, and they told me, I spoke to them and they're like, yeah, we use, a couple, companies, we use this company to tune our headphones on. And I was like, oh, okay, no. So at least you did your homework and you realized we needed somebody to actually do this right for us. And which is what I'm hoping that Microsoft will do before this comes out. I'm not disregarding the headphones. I think there's a lot of cool opportunity there. And also, but one of the things I found interesting, I don't know if you did too, is the fact that they announced that, it had Cortana built in it, but we also know how they've just disregarded Cortana at the same time. And I'm going, okay, should I use it? I'm not sure why you added it in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're it feels to me like they're dipping their feet in the water of this kind of like Cortana assistant and everything. And it's fair. I think the world is better for it when we have choice, and I really hope they can sort it out. I think the design looks really hot. I want them to. I wish them best. I want them to succeed with this.
Yeah.
Quickly before we run off, I want your thoughts on the HP Spectre Folio, which is that crazy leather 2-in-1 laptop converts into a tablet in this totally weird leathery way. You were there. I wasn't. I got the press release from HP. I was like, whoa, this looks hot. But I mean, you played with it. What are your thoughts real quick?
It handled well. It's interesting. I mean, if you like leather, by all means, this thing is a beautiful device. And the crafting and some of the, I had a couple of questions for the designer who was right there trying to answer questions. I said, number one, can you easily fix this? He's like, yeah, we built it in such a way where once you take out the keyboard, the motherboard is exposed and you can go ahead and change, because it's one of the smallest motherboards on a 13-inch laptop. They worked with Intel. So they're like, it's easy to jump in and change whatever you want, because he actually uses a M.2. It's not soldered on the board or anything. So,
very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, all right, you guys have solved that. And I'm like, the second thing, heat. It's leather.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It absorbs the heat. That's not good.
Yeah, it's leather. It's just which is why we went with the magnesium chassis, which basically allows, it prevents a lot of that heat going through. And I'm like, well, the leather will still expand, right, at some point. So
yeah.
I don't know about that. They claim that, no, that won't be the case, at least for a while. So I would just have to say that it really felt solid. It was one of those things where it felt like when you hear the announcement, you go, what is this? Who was drinking at work?
Yeah, totally.
And then when you start playing with the device, you're going, wow, okay, you actually did your homework. So somebody dreamt up something crazy, but still was able to execute. So far, in terms of just the hands-on, it looked like they executed a polished design all the way through. And we just have to wait and see if the device itself actually holds up.
Cool.
Down the line. But I really liked it. I liked what I saw.
Yeah, it's intriguing to me. I'm going to request a review in it just simply because I think it looks really hot. And, I'm not a huge fan of HP's design. Every now and then, though, they surprise us with something. And this is up there to me in terms of like, wow, okay, I want to try it. Cool. Well, listen, Thunder, thanks for being on the show. I want you to tell everyone where they can find you on the internet. If they don't know, they're probably in a cave somewhere. But at the same time, please just let them know.
First off, I want to say thank you very much. This has been an absolute blast being on your show.
Thank you.
And conversing. This is, look, if you need me to show up at any point in time, just let me know. I'll be
fantastic.
there.
Thanks. I'll have you on again for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And you guys can find me on all over the web. I have a website which is called Bored at Work, spelt with 2 O's. My channel on YouTube is also Bored at Work. You can find me on Twitter with the same handle, Instagram, and Facebook. It is all Bored at Work with 2 O's. So when you're bored, just go to Bored at Work.
Especially if you're at work, okay?
Yeah.
It only really works when you're at work. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually really awesome. I love watching Thunder's reviews and videos, top quality stuff. Add it to your subscriptions for sure. You guys know where to find me. I'm at ThinKGRL, that's TNKGRL on Twitter, as well on Instagram. You can also find me through that handle on Facebook. My full name is Myriam Jouar with a Y, and you need to know that to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Myriam Jouar. That's where you'll find some not nearly as polished videos as what Thunder produces, but there are videos that will let you see and feel and touch and whatever, see at least the things that I talk about on the show. And remember, tell your friends to subscribe to the channel and like the videos, but more importantly, subscribe to this podcast, mobiletechpodcast.com. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Slacker, Stitcher, pretty much everywhere. Look for Mobile Tech Podcasts, and if you get too many results, add ThinKGRL, TNKGRL to that, and you'll absolutely find me top of the list there. And you know that this comes out weekly, so subscribe. I want to thank our sponsor, Audible. Audible.com is where you can find some really awesome audiobooks. And if you like to listen to books instead of read them, for whatever reason, maybe you're driving a car or something and you want to fall asleep to the sweet sound of a book, this is the place to go, audible.com. There is a link, audibletrial.com/mobiletech. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. If you go to that link, it'll be in the show notes, so you can get a discount if you want to join Audible. And obviously, you help the show. So check it out. And thanks so much again, Thunder, for being on the show. It was really great to have you.
My pleasure.
And we'll have another show for you next week, so stay tuned for more. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with ThinKGRL, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.